Guests in studio with us this morning. First of all, Erin Pehan, Director of the City's Office of Housing and Community Development. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
It's good to see you again.
You as well.
And Director of Communications for the City of Missoula, Jenny Miriam, is joining us. Hey.
Good morning.
You made it. I gave you a chance to catch your breath.
I drove on Reserve Street.
Oh. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bravery Award goes to Don.
Yes.
Just kidding. All right. So let's first talk about, Erin, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I think this is your first visit on Talkback. So tell us about Erin Pehan.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am relatively new to the city. I've been in my position as the Director of Housing and Community Development for just a couple of years now. Prior to that, I had spent about a decade at the Poverello Center.
Right, and that's where I first met you.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So I come to this work with, a passion for making sure that all of our neighbors in Missoula are well taken care of and have that basic need and basic right of safe housing met.
All right. So I know if there's one topic that starts conversation, and that's the topic of, quote, affordable housing. And of course, the first question is there such a thing as affordable housing in Missoula? Because we have this little tiny space and all these people want to live here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And affordable housing, I think, can be a really confusing term to people. And so when we talk about affordable housing, we think of that as housing that doesn't cost more than 30% of your gross income, which leaves you money to meet your healthcare needs, your childcare needs, buy food and other supplies for your family. And affordable housing does exist in Missoula for both folks who are two-income professional families and folks living in deeper poverty, but it doesn't exist at the scale that we need it to adequately serve our community. And so that's one of our goals in the next couple of years, is to really figure out how we can make sure that we have adequate housing stock at all those price points for folks throughout the community.
Well, I know that just about every organization, community organization, county, city, state, whatever, has looked at Missoula and said, we need to figure out this affordable housing issue here. And what would you say are the main challenges that we have?
Housing affordability is a really complex issue, and there are so many factors that it really takes a multi-pronged approach. You're right, Peter, in that Missoula is very unique geographically. We aren't like other communities like the Flathead Valley or Gallatin County that can sprawl and spread. We are constrained by these beautiful mountains and rivers.
But we could take out a couple of mountains and we'd be okay.
Little dynamite.
be the first community to build on platforms over the river. So many options. So we do have to be much more creative in how we approach this. And we're really looking at a two-prong approach. How can we remove regulatory barriers and spur the market and then get out of the market's way so we can see that supply increase? But then how can we also incentivize true affordable housing to make sure that we're accounting for folks that the market won't touch, people who need that deep rental subsidy or need that home buyer assistance to get into the home buyer market? And
where does that assistance come from? I realize there are lots of government agencies and things like that, but if you could kind of capsulize that for us, as if someone moved to Missoula and let's say they've got a minimum wage job and they and their spouse or their partner have a minimum wage job and they're struggling to find a place to live, how do they get help?
Yeah. Absolutely. Missoula has a plethora of amazing resources for folks who want to purchase homes or need some assistance in the rental market, but they are scattered across the community. And so that's one of our goals, is to get that one-stop shop or that information center to help people better navigate that. We have fantastic partners in the Missoula Housing Authority, in Homeward, in North Missoula Community Development Corporation, NeighborWorks, all housing organizations in our community that provide rental assistance, homeownership options to people who meet certain income targets. And then the city receives federal subsidies as well to help on the development side, to help get these apartment buildings or these homeownership options built.
All right, we're up against a break, but I'll give you three numbers and we'll talk about that when we come back. 211. Right? We'll talk about that when we come back. What does he mean? Oh, yeah, stay with us and you'll find out. 721. By the way, we'd love to have your phone calls this morning. Erin Pehan is here to take your calls, answer your questions. 721-1290 is our number, or 1-800-568-5309. We're coming back right after this.
Time for the spring tire sale at Jerry.
Here's a ball of fire today.
Hey, there you go. It's Friday.
Yeah, enough,
Peter's always excited
enough
on
energy
Friday.
for everyone.
He's always excited.
I'll tell you, Friday, only 2 more working days this week.
Oh,
I know, for you.
Well,
Actually,
for all of us, that's radio.
I
We're
was kind
24.
of thinking that last night when I was at this super fascinating physicist lecture
Wow.
about climate change. And, Nick Garcia from KECI is texting me, could you set up an interview for me right now? It's like
Oh, geez.
8:30.
yeah, no.
I'm like, Nick, no.
My day stopped at 5:30.
Well, it doesn't, though.
Yeah,
And
it really doesn't.
for Nick, he covers the city, but he works the night shift.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Oh,
seem
yeah.
like a good
No.
news
No.
decision
Yeah,
to me,
yeah.
but he comes to work at 2.
Yeah,
And then,
It's like those morning show folks on TV who are in at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm here at 3.
Oh,
oh yeah, they text me too.
That's
4:30.
when
Yeah,
you
what's
go
When I
to,
happening
get so-and-so
today?
when
to
you
come
go
on,
to when you go to bed,
At 6,
Peter, are you
yeah.
in bed by 7,
Bed?
8?
Bed?
they are.
Sleep? What?
Yeah.
Remember, for morning guys, sleep is for wimps.
Peter will never get me to adopt.
I'm
that
actually
lifestyle.
25.
Don't
You
do
can
it.
tell by my
Don't
nice
do
wife.
it.
Won't do it.
Nick is opposed as a true journalism graduate.
What's
We
that?
know.
All right. So, get some music in here so we can start the rocking and rolling. I threatened Nick to do the entire show in my corn pone voice one of these days.
You
Come
better
on,
not.
everybody.
We're leaving.
How y'all doing? Good to
Yeah.
have you here,
Don't
ladies
do it
and gentlemen.
today. How about
I grew up in
open
North
phones
Carolina, you know.
Did you?
Yeah.
No.
Here we go. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We have 4 phone lines open at 721-1290. We'd love to have you be a part of our show this morning. Erin Pehan joining us in the studio along with Jenny Miriam, the communications director for the city of Missoula. Now, let's talk about that number 211. I recently had an issue with a family member who had some folks living with them that were kind of relatively homeless. And they use those magic numbers 211, and I tell you what, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, 211 is an amazing resource in our community. And so anyone can pick up their phone and dial those 3 digits and be connected to a resource specialist who can listen to what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and directly connect them to the right resources in our community to meet their needs so that they're not jumping from organization to organization or driving all over town, but really getting the exact information they need in the moment.
Now, I had a question too. So, obviously, you had a lot of experience with the Poverello Center, right? So you have a lot of experience with Missoula's homeless community. I know you're working on Missoula's, what's it called, 10-year plan to end homelessness. I was hoping you could talk about that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So since 2000, over 400 cities across the nation have adopted plans to end homelessness. Our plan here locally is called Reaching Home. And what that plan means is that we aren't going to end the experience of homelessness, but our goal is to make sure that homelessness is rare, brief, and one time only, so we can move people out of that situation as quickly as possible. And we are in phase 2 of that plan. We're in year 7. And we're really wrapping up the establishment of a coordinated system to end homelessness. So what that means is we're shifting from a crisis management approach into a very strategic, intentional approach where we're identifying our most vulnerable homeless individuals in Missoula, those who typically cost our community the most amount of money, and we're targeting our resources to serve them and house them first. That plan is already bearing fruit. Since 2016, we've seen roughly a 13% decrease in homelessness. And as we continue to target and strategize the use of those resources, we know that decrease in homelessness is only going to go up.
No, my wife right now, my daughter lives in Seattle, and she's a nurse there. So my wife flew over to see her just to visit a little bit. And she said on the way from the airport to her apartment, she passed, you go down the interstate, and there are basically tent cities in the medians. And she said, they're absolutely everywhere. You walk down the street and there are young, able-bodied people sitting there with their hand out. And you wonder, I realize we have some of that in Missoula, not anywhere near as much as the larger cities, obviously. But aren't there people who consciously make that choice to live that lifestyle?
That's a great question, Peter. And I think that all depends on how you look at it. I think we can say there are people that consciously choose to be on the street because they may deny assistance that's available. But we also have to remember those same individuals are often struggling from significant mental illness that comes with paranoia, that comes with difficulty building relationships and trusting individuals. And so, we firmly believe that everybody wants a home. Everybody wants to improve their circumstance. They may just not be in the right state of mind to accept that assistance at that point in time. And so our approach is very relationship based. The first step in eliminating or ending the experience of homelessness is building relationships with people who are struggling and who are the most vulnerable on the streets. And that starts that process of helping them visualize what a better life could be.
So it isn't just an us versus them type thing, right?
Absolutely not. This is our community. We know the vast majority of homeless individuals in Missoula are from Missoula. They're folks who grew up here, who have family here, but they're oftentimes struggling with significant mental illness and addiction. And those are the key pieces to ending homelessness for them is helping them move beyond that.
What kind of relationships do you have with the healthcare industry? Obviously, that's part of this whole picture with the healthcare industry, because when you start talking about the sheer amount of money that it takes to help treat these folks, that can be prohibitive sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's the area that is perhaps the most exciting in my work in the last, 3 to 5 years. We know housing is healthcare. Simply by assisting homeless individuals in getting into stable housing, we eliminate acute health crises and address chronic health issues. And so we are collaborating and partnering with the healthcare community in ways that we have never done before, because getting these folks off the street is...
Can you enumerate some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we have a collaborative planning grant with St. Patrick's Hospital called the Frequent Utilizer System Engagement Grant, otherwise known as FUSE. And we are working with the hospital and with Partnership Health Center and with Community Health Center to really look at how do we serve chronically homeless individuals who are chronic utilizers of our hospital system, of our jail system, of our shelter system, to serve these folks better and to have better health and quality of life outcomes for each individual and better cost outcomes for our entire community.
So, and Peter brought up funding. So do you have like a funding plan in place? Where does that funding come from for some of this?
It's a funding piece is really diversified. We do have some federal funding that comes to our community through the Department of Housing and Community Development to support homeless planning and homeless service activities. We have a lot of private foundation and philanthropic funding. We work with our hospital systems, our mental health systems, our substance abuse systems. And so it's really diverse, which I think displays really the players that we need to solve this once and for all. This is not something the city can fix alone. It's not something the healthcare industry can fix alone. It really is a collaborative approach that requires investment from all sectors.
I think that we're almost up against a break here, but I think sometimes we have been talking about this issue for a long, long time. And I think sometimes people just, after a while, they get kind of jaundiced, and then they kind of, oh, well, God, we're talking about it. We haven't said it. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm asking, is there really light at the end of the tunnel here that folks who are listening to Talk Back this morning, but I hope will call in at 721-1290, can see that in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we'll be able to see some demonstrably better outcomes for folks. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. Our phone lines are open, and we'd love to have you call. Or if you'd like, you can contact us on our Facebook page. We'll be back.
Claire had a question on Facebook. I don't know if we want to address it on the air or not, but I'll ask you. She said, since Missoula is an ICLEI city, does it follow the UN blueprint for sustainable, smart cities, communities, and neighborhoods? Do you know?
ICLEI. It's called ICLEI.
Yeah, it's
all part of Agenda 20.
We have several members or listeners that have been trying to have us talk about this, and I've been reaching out to several people, and no one will respond to me because I don't know much about it either. But
I don't either.
yeah, okay.
I vaguely, globally
bring-
know, but
Could you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
can you address that?
no,
No, we don't have to do it today, but they're dying to
Chase-
talk to somebody about that.
could. And
Okay.
It's really hard to talk about because people misconstrue what it is.
Yeah.
So if you live in the Bitterroot or Potomac,
It's different,
you
right?
think that it's
A plot.
a plot to take away your car and make you live in a city, and
Mm,
it
yeah.
I emailed somebody.
and it's really about sustainability.
Do I need to talk about potholes or something to get people to call in?
I did a
guess
story
so.
yesterday on it with Brian. It didn't take off how I
I did
thought
2
either.
stories yesterday where I channeled Brian.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Brian's on vacation. MU in a dress. I do think it's important when we're talking about affordable housing. I really like us to talk about the fact that the housing policy that Erin's been working on is not just for poor people. We
Yeah.
say affordable housing and we
Yeah.
think, oh, it's for poor
I
people.
mean,
Right.
teachers,
Which
and
is why I really
firefighters
like
and-
sustainable housing.
Yeah.
Because really, everybody who is not at the very top of the income scale.
Yeah.
I mean, I myself pay more than 30%. We
Mhm.
pay more than 30%.
I would like to challenge. Is there anybody out there that pays less than 30% of their? No,
Yeah.
we're talking net income, right?
Yeah.
To
Gross.
gross, but
gross
still,
income.
yeah.
Okay, that pays less than
But
30% of their gross income.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's typically folks who've owned their home for 20 or
Right.
30 years.
Well, I
but no
just
one
paid
has-
off my house.
Yeah.
After
oh,
living in it.
Peter,
That's exciting.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Ooh.
You've only worked
Now
72
you got to
years
start
to do it.
budgeting for property taxes, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We put away about $500 a month
Yep.
in taxes and insurance.
Yep.
Because I live in Miller Creek.
And you're used to those being, escrowed right into the mortgage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. Why? Because I like Chicago. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. That's what comes from being able to push the buttons. I get to pick the music. Anyway, our guests in studio, Erin Pehan, and of course, Ginny Miriam with the city of Missoula. And I would like to ask a question just to see if we can provoke some phone calls here at 721-1290. Is there is there anybody out there now? What is the ratio again that's supposed to be for affordable or for being able to purchase a house?
So paying about 30% of your gross income
Right.
is considered affordable.
Okay. Is there anybody out there in our audience that pays less than 30% of your gross income for housing? And I'm not counting people who've paid off their houses. Okay, these are people with mortgages, right? Rents, that sort of thing. Or if you do pay more than 30%, we'd like to hear from you too. Anyway, just to gauge what the sentiment is out there, because we hear about, every now and then we'll see. There we go. Every now and then we get a seminar or whatever, and people will say, "Hey, we're working on this. We've got these great ideas," and that ratio never seems to lessen. So, your response to that?
It's true. It's
Yeah,
true. It doesn't seem to lessen. And we have a unique problem in Missoula because I think a lot of people would look at what our median home cost is right now to purchase a home, and it's about $290,000. And they're moving here from Colorado, from Oregon, from Idaho, and they say that's not really that bad. I just sold my house in San Francisco for $2 million, and I can pay cash for a home here. But the disconnect is when you look at our median wages. And so that ratio between what the average home costs and our median wages places us among the top 5 in the nation for housing and equity. Small little Missoula, Montana, among the top 5 in the nation. And so it is an equation that looks at housing, but it's also an equation that looks at wages. And that's the other side of the coin.
And of course, when you talk wages, you're also talking about the types of businesses that move here. Now, we love it when the high-tech firms are coming and they're paying a lot of money, but they're kind of trickling in. We used to have resource-based jobs, like with Stone Container, where $70,000 back in the 70s was a lot of money, and people were able to purchase a home and make a good living. Those industries are all gone now. And so there's got to be a way. And I know that one of the things that the city has done is put together the Business Development Corporation, right?
Oh, Missoula Economic
Yeah,
Partnership.
Missoula Economic Partnership, right? And you have put together all these very smart people to try to draw businesses here, and it's been pretty successful, right?
It very much has. I do think, and I say this completely unscientific.
Okay.
I think that, like the rest of the nation, Missoula has moved away from a strong base of blue collar jobs. Blue collar meaning, I mean, those are good jobs
Mhm.
too.
Right.
Be in a union, maybe. We have plenty of jobs like that at the city still. But the days when you could go to work at a mill, a lumber mill, or the paper mill right out of high school and be able to support your entire family with that are diminishing.
For 30, 35 years,
And
yeah.
so to me, it also speaks to the need for really good higher education, whether that's 2-year or 4-year, because you talk about, a tech firm is moving to Missoula, but are you a computer programmer? Are you an engineer?
Right.
Are they going to
Are you-
hire Missoula people, or are they going to bring in outside hires? You know, can we meet that necessity, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we need that very trained up expert labor force to meet that demand.
Okay,
It's a different kind of occupation.
Sure. Let's get Mike on the line. Mike, thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Well, I have several ideas. I've thought about this subject quite a bit. I'm in the Bitterroot Valley, and it doesn't seem to me that we have a lot of homeless that have chosen to be homeless and hang out on the streets.
Okay.
What we have is young families, single mothers with children who are living with mom and dad or grandmother or aunt and uncle. Many people do a thing called couch surfing. We have a huge homeless problem in Montana that mostly does not get discussed on these kinds of panels, because most of the questions in the discussion are about problems and or solutions that are based in large government and large business. I submit that the local residents of our communities, Missoula, Hamilton, Stevie, and whatnot, there's a huge population of good people. And I start with the premise that good people want to do good for other people. But most average Montanans that are working are busy working, and they don't have time for meetings or forums or to write grants. If we can somehow mobilize an all-volunteer army of residents to work on these situations in our own communities, I think we'll be further ahead in both the short run and the long run.
Well, I was just going to say, Mike, I think what you're vocalizing here is the dream of every city and county administrator, that there would be people that would voluntarily come forward to try to solve these problems.
Well, I believe there is, but they haven't been approached or asked, or a forum hasn't been made available for the average person to participate.
Well,
and
allow me to ask you this, Mike. What would be a forum wherein someone like you, I think you probably put yourself in that group of people that want to help. What kind of forum would it take to make someone like you or someone that you're describing want to get involved?
What it takes is individual contact with people, because I've been to several meetings. I've returned to the Bitterroot after being gone to make a decent living for myself elsewhere, and came back with not the big money to buy the $1 million home and property, but with an idea that there are many young people in today's world that need assistance. One of the issues I see is that the building industry, for example, if we're going to fix housing for the poor, the industry and the government, they want to build huge buildings on tracks where we pack people into apartments. And most new homes that are being built are of the McMansion size, with 3,000 square feet per floor and 2 or 3 garage slots. I submit to you that the average young couple could and would happily exist in what could be termed a modest home of approximately 1,500 square feet. And I believe that if people come together with an idea outside of big government and big business, that if we had 1,000 residents of Ravalli County, just 1,000 that would come together, we could build 2 or 3 modest homes and ensconce a young couple, not a drug addict couple, not people who have extraordinary needs, but just your average young couple into a modest home where they can make a reasonable size mortgage payment and still have time to be parents for their children. I believe that there are 1,000 people like that in Ravalli County, and all we have to do is get them together.
All right. Well, Mike, that's well said. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me this time.
You bet. It's our pleasure, sir. Thanks so much. You wonder, it's time to run for office. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well said, Mike.
We're overdue for a break. 721-1290. Jeff is also on the line. We have 3 lines open for you. Mike's got a great idea. Would you be willing to join something like that? If you had the skills, if you had the opportunity and the time, which most people working 2 or 3 jobs don't. So anyway, but these are all, factors that go into these things. 721-1290 is our number. We'll be back.
Sounds like he needs to be Habitat for Humanity.
I mean,
that's just what they do.
Yeah.
my wife and I have been looking around to downsize.
Yeah.
And we have found exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
That cost exactly as much as my house would sell for.
Exactly. There's
They're
no
all-
ability
they're
to
all
downsize and
nothing
keep
under
your equity.
$300,000.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. That what we kind of call step down housing, of letting people get out of their
Right.
3,000 square foot home and then they move into a condo that's the exact same price.
Right.
And so it's not a good situation.
It's not a good trade-off.
No.
Yeah, I was looking at the small homes over on the other side of Coles,
Oh yeah.
and they look like little
They
penny
look like-
gingerbread
but they're
houses.
The
so
cowboy flag.
expensive.
$140,000.
What?
Yeah.
3?
And that one right on Door Lane,
Yeah.
you could like throw a stone at Coles. Who
Right.
would want to live next to that busy of a? I know.
How many homes are getting put there? Because it's Cowboy Flats, right? But I think it's like 20.
I was gonna say, I think it's
Something.
yep,
Yeah.
that sounds right. Yeah.
And the larger ones are over 400,000, and we're talking single level
Yep.
homes,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So please
They look
don't
pretty.
tell me that they're out there trying to build affordable housing. They're out
No.
to make a load of money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's a price
Make
point,
a lot
right?
of
You
money.
said shitload.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're live on Facebook. I apologize. Anyway. Yeah. But you know what? That is capitalism. That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's supply and demand.
Yep.
Anyway. Okay, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290. I didn't really say it. No, I didn't. Okay. We're joining us on the phone here, and I still have a job. Erin Pehan joining us in the studio, Ginny Miriam, also from the city of Missoula, and Jeff has been waiting very patiently on the line. Jeff, good morning. Thank you for holding, sir. Go ahead.
Good morning, all. Good morning, ladies. 2 points real quick. First of all, I did a quick check of Missoula, Billings, and Bozeman, and if you look at density, we all have around between 2,400 and 2,600 people per square mile. So I think, unless somebody can prove me wrong, that the idea that Missoula just doesn't have the room is a myth, that we just need to allocate, how much green space do we have, how much open space, how much
Soccer fields, baseball fields, things like that, right?
Right. I think that's more germane to this, because in a magazine article recently, Missoula was rated the worst town in Montana to live in terms of housing prices versus per capita income. And so it's not so much, I think, a matter of how much space we have. It's that how do we get people to be able to get jobs? Or how do we reduce the cost of housing, i.e. property taxes, that sort of thing. And my second point that I'd like to make is years ago, back in the 90s, my wife and I went to a Points of Light convention in San Francisco. And the lady who ran it stood up in front of all these people from all over the country and said, we have enough beds in San Francisco right now to house every homeless person in San Francisco. The problem is that they don't want to obey the rules of the shelters. They come in, they drink, they do drugs, they're belligerent, whatever. And so we just can't let them in because they just don't want to follow the rules. And when I look at Missoula, I'm sure there's a lot of mental health issues with all of that.
Yeah,
but,
we had mentioned that. Erin mentioned that a little while ago. Yeah.
right. How much of that is mental health? And I did see on the same trip, I witnessed a young guy just got off the bus, and he's on a street corner, and there's one of the old hands giving him lessons on how to beg. Well, here's what you got to do. Here's what here's your approach. And I just stood there in amazement watching. Wow, he's getting trained, and he was able-bodied, young. Clean shaven, well dressed when he got off. So I don't know what he was doing there, but he was obviously just had arrived and was learning how to beg or getting taught how to beg. And when I see, people with, it's a bit of a joke and maybe not even fair, but when I see some beggars on a corner and their dog is well fed, I just know that they're not really suffering. And so, I think the mental health is much more, mental health and income plays much more into this than any sort of unavailability due to squeezing or geography or anything like that.
All right. Well, Jeff, thanks for the call, sir. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I wonder, because I've always tackled with this too. Missoula is a community where we all help each other, right? So it's one of those situations where, is Missoula one of those communities for the homeless where they end up maybe getting more than other communities, so they seek to come here, right? And they understand that, well, I can make more money begging in an hour than I can sitting at a desk or doing something else. Does that come into play at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nick. Missoula is a generous community, but Missoula also has a lot of barriers for our homeless populations. In response to the geography statement by Jeff, we do have over 1,700 people on a waiting list for affordable housing in Missoula. And so it isn't a geography situation as it applies to the need for true affordable housing, subsidized affordable housing. It takes 3 to 5 years to move through that list. And in the interim, a lot of these folks are literally living on the streets. And they can go to a similar community like Butte or Kalispell, and that list moves much more quickly. And in a lot of instances, there is no list. And so I always like to remind people that there are reasons why homeless individuals gravitate towards Missoula. It tends to not be because we have this amazing plethora of services or generous community that draws them here. It tends to be the fact that we are a healthcare hub. A lot of folks come here for specific healthcare services. They're going through cancer treatment. They are a veteran, and we have more veteran services in Missoula than any other community in the state. And so the true reasons why people gravitate here tend to be a little bit different from that perception that Missoula beckons folks here through our generosity. I would also challenge folks who see someone panhandling, who see someone with the well-fed dog who doesn't really appear to be so down and out, to remember that there will always be exceptions to the rule. There will always be someone who appears to be kind of work in the system, but to not generalize our entire homeless population for those few folks. We have on any given night over 500 homeless individuals and families in the city of Missoula. And the folks that you can probably count on less than 2 hands panhandling in the downtown in the Reserve Street area are not even 1% of that population. And so the vast majority of homeless individuals in our community, we never see.
Yeah, when we come back, we have Jeremy and Cindy both waiting, but I know you were also helping during the terrible cold snaps of opening various places like, I know, the YMCA and the Mountain Line bus transfer station as well. So we'll talk about that when we come back, but we'll get our callers, and we have 2 lines open at 721-1290. We'll be back in just a moment. Surprisingly enough, I have a real estate ad to do when we come back. So,
Surprisingly enough, KGVO has needs.
See, you're starting to be a rock star now, Erin. Starting to fill the phone lines up.
I know.
Just got to really start talking about this transients.
Are you going to work after this?
Oh, yeah.
Can I ride with you?
Yes, if you don't judge the state of my car. Like an explosion of Cheerios and goldfish and
Cool.
stinky children's socks.
Oh, I saw what you were buying at Target. see mine.
What you're not saving at Shopko because they're closed?
It's dog hair.
And now you are both officially rock stars because you have filled up all 4 phone lines.
All the lines.
Oh, good. We're not as good as Brian Hensel, but we can only aspire to the Brian Hensel standard.
And to be honest with you, Jeremy and Cindy and Rich, I have not heard of before. So these may be first-time callers.
Good.
Yay, yay.
My 6-year-old is homesick today.
Uh-oh.
We're getting on a plane. We're getting on a plane tomorrow, so of course she has an ear infection.
Oh, the
So
worst.
she's got antibiotics, so we're crossing our fingers. But she just texted me on her dad's phone, "Mommy, I can hear you coming out of the stereo." So apparently my husband has turned it on.
You can
for
ask
her.
the pilot to fly lower.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
So a trick
No.
on the plane, because I used to have tubes in my ear when I was a kid. If they have a foam cup and you put a ton of like really hot water in there and just dump it out, just put it on their ear.
Oh, does the
it'll-
heat?
Yeah, it'll like pop it for them. So it'll help.
Oh,
That's
that's
If they
Here
have
we
a
go.
foam
Really?
cup.
smart.
I have to
thank
do
you.
this.
I'll
Never
bring
mind.
one.
Yeah.
Stand by.
Oh, I never heard of that.
I've heard there's some kind of a little you can buy. I
Well,
haven't
here
found
it is
them anywhere, but
Friday.
you
You're
can get
looking
them at
forward to a
Amazon. They're
relaxing
like,
weekend, right? But the Jason Baker Keller Williams real estate team is just beginning to roll up their sleeves for a very busy time, contacting prospective buyers for your home. You see, while some realtors are seeing more expired listings, Jason Baker, with his exclusive accelerated marketing program, is rapidly gaining new clients and selling their homes many times at more than the original asking price. And he can even make a cash offer for your home. So you can be 100% certain that your home will sell. So put your home in the hands of the man who knows how to sell it. Contact Jason Baker, Keller Williams, Western Montana today at 552-4443. That's 552-4443. Or visit his website at jasonbakerteam.com. That's jasonbakerteam.com. Okay, we're back on Talkback, surprisingly enough, talking about housing. All right, so we have all 4 phone lines lit up. You guys are automatically rock stars. I think you already have a T-shirt, Ginny. So let's jump right in here and get Jeremy first. Jeremy, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just wanted to call about the guy from Ravalli County. I believe his name was Mike. He was talking about, a bunch of people getting together around the county and volunteering their time, assets, things that they can do. And, that's actually a really, really good idea. I'm one of those people that I can't afford to give a lot of money. I can't afford to give a lot of things. But what I can afford to give is a little bit of my time for a house or two a year to go in and lay floors. I've got a small flooring company. I don't sell, I just install. But, I could afford to give my time. And I would bet that there's a lot of other trades out there that would feel the same way about helping out.
Now, have you ever heard of Habitat for Humanity?
I have.
Yeah, well, they are an ongoing concern here in Missoula, and they're looking for people just like you. And I would imagine that would be a nice place to start and to meet like-minded people to discuss this kind of idea and see where it goes.
Most definitely. That's actually a good idea.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Good-hearted folks out there. Cindy's on the line. Good morning, Cindy.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. What's up?
Well, I just wanted to comment on the homeless situation that we have going on Reserve Street.
All right.
And I actually sent an email to Jesse Ramos. My concern.
Now, for those who don't know,
is,
Jesse Ramos is one of our city councilors. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. And my concern has been the middle of the island there, having people residing there. And actually started with tents. And they're actually now building buildings and structures. There's several no trespassing signs. I understand we have a homeless community of people, but I truly believe that is the worst place for them. It's not safe. I don't understand as a city how we allow buildings to be built without any kind of permits, anybody with building codes. And the reason I bring that up is for safety and security.
Not to mention sanitation.
Sanitation is horrible. I'm afraid of what's going on to our rivers.
Right.
But what my question, I guess, is what happens in the event that, as a result of those buildings, one collapses and somebody dies? Who's liable? Truly, we turned a blind eye as a city and allowed buildings to be erected that aren't secure and safe. So I'm wondering if there's some liability there.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue.
I also, when I contacted the city, their response, the biggest challenge, they said their response is that Missoula goes up to the bridge, county goes after the bridge. So there's obviously logistics on who's responsible.
You're talking about jurisdictional matters, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So, and it seems to me that the attitude is there's a concern doing much of anything because of it being such a touchy subject. So I don't know. I think that we need to find better solutions, better answers. I don't believe our turning the other way is a safe situation for these people.
Well, I'll tell you what. One of the reasons why Erin and Ginny are here is to hear ideas like yours and questions, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, any response to that, ladies? Go ahead.
I can actually address that somewhat. I cannot speak to the liability. She's right in that that's not in the city. There's multi-jurisdictional situation there where there's city,
well, you're
the
by
county.
You're by the river. You're by the Fish and Wildlife.
Right, there's the county. There are a couple of federal agencies who are in charge of that land. We do not turn a blind eye to it, but it is extremely labor intensive. At least once a year, sometimes twice, the city participates with a number of our city employees with the county and other jurisdictions, even the Forest Service, I believe, in cleaning out that camp. And we give people notice. We are coming, we're dismantling structures, we are hauling away trash, and you need to depart from here with your belongings. The problem is that they come back. And Erin can speak better to that population and why somebody would want to live there in that dangerous situation. I don't know if want is even the correct word, but it's something that we deal with perennially. It takes a great deal of resources, and obviously we can't do that once a week or even really more than once a couple times a year.
Sure. So, Erin?
Yeah, I can speak to why a lot of folks prefer to be out there. And Cindy, you're absolutely right. It is not the ideal situation. It's not safe for the folks who are staying down there, and it's not safe for folks who want to use that property recreationally. We know a lot of people can't access our shelter system. That's primarily due to mental health issues or addiction. We have a lot of veterans in our community who are struggling from severe post-traumatic stress disorder from combat. We have a lot of folks who are struggling from PTSD due to childhood trauma, childhood abuse, and it is nearly impossible for those individuals to be in a crowded room with 30, 40 other people sleeping at night in a shelter. So they choose to take their chances in the extreme weather because they just can't be in close quarters. And so we definitely don't turn a blind eye. We have amazing partners in the service community, the Poverello Center, Open Aid Alliance, Western Montana Mental Health Center, who go down there sometimes on a daily basis, checking in with those folks. Again, building relationship, starting that process of helping them visualize a different and a better life with the goal of bringing those folks into housing.
Now, real quickly, during these horrible cold snaps, you were very instrumental in helping to open up other areas for people to come in and get and stay warm, right?
Absolutely. We worked with the support of the City Council under the vision of the Mayor, Mountain Line Transfer Center, ASUM Transportation, and I have to give a shout out to April Seat with Union Gospel Mission, their outreach coordinator, who really dedicated days of her life to making sure volunteers were trained and supported throughout that process. But we were able to get a temporary warming center to open up during the daytime to supplement the Salvation Army's winter weather shelter in the evening. So during that incredibly frigid cold snap in February, we didn't have to worry about someone literally freezing to death on a sidewalk.
Now, is that part of Missoula's 10-year to end homelessness? Are you trying to get a permanent warming shelter put in place? for people?
At this point, we really aren't focusing our limited investments on building more shelters. Shelters are an absolutely necessary part of the continuum of service, but shelter is triage. Shelter does not end homelessness. It's important, but it doesn't end homelessness. Housing is the only thing that ends homelessness. So we want to make sure as we're working to house every homeless individual in Missoula, we have that emergent response, but we don't want to invest millions of dollars in our community on a triage model. We want to invest those millions of dollars in actual housing.
Okay, we're going to come right back. We have a 1-minute timeout, and then we have Emmett and Rich, who both are waiting very patiently. We'll be back in 1 minute. I should tell you the story of when I went to the Linda Vista Golf Course. They have a clubhouse there. They have a community meeting, and they were going to put up a new development. This is several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this very sweet lady stood up and said, you know, my husband and I worked 30 years to build the house of our dreams, right? We scrimped and saved and scrimped and saved. We finally built it, and now you want to put a big housing project up in front of our front yard. You're going to ruin our property values, and I don't mean to sound like I'm mean and nasty, but that's our investment, and you are messing it up.
Yeah.
You know, and so
I totally get that.
Yeah.
so we're all going.
Yeah.
But she was being truthful.
It's a real thing,
Right.
right?
So.
I still can't believe you have that T9 that keyboard phone.
She loves it. I remember when we had our
I
first
love
meeting,
it.
she's clicking on it.
I'm like, what are you? You might as well have a BlackBerry.
Well, I have an iPhone.
Here we go. Okay, we're back on Talkback. And I want to just get right back into our phone calls because we're actually running out of time here. Really appreciate all the phone calls and for Erin and Ginny, who are both here. Emmett's up next. Emmett, go ahead. What's up?
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Well, I've talked about this before, but I'd like to run this by again. It's called wet housing. I think that would help a lot of the people who are sleeping on the street rather than the shelters because of alcohol addiction. It isn't an idea where we give an excuse for people to crash and to drink. We're talking about hardcore alcoholics that can't stop drinking and that don't want to stop and that or whatever. And it's simply, a room. It's staffed by, security and a nurse. And you can drink if you're not allowed to be at the Poverello, and you can stay there as long as you want. But it's a safe place where they be out of the cold. And if there's a medical emergency, like they have to be hospitalized because of over drinking or an overdose, they can get the emergency treatment at the hospital.
Now, this is called
and this will
wet
save lives.
housing. This is called wet housing, right?
Wet housing, yes.
W-E-T. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That is what wet housing is. And I just wondered if there's anything like this going to be started in Missoula. I think the mayor's considering it, but I haven't read any plans in the Missoulian. Let's say, yes, we definitely want to build wet housing here in Missoula like we have in some other big cities, which have helped and saved a lot of people
All right,
and saved a lot of lives.
Let me ask you something, Emmett, and please forgive me for being personal.
Certainly.
Would you want that wet housing across the street from you?
That's a good point. I wouldn't because this is a residential neighborhood, but we could put it somewhere else that isn't a residential neighborhood and that is staffed by security. There are other places, maybe downtown, maybe even near that river or wherever that isn't residential neighborhood. It's kind of like why, the whole questions about the Poverello near residential neighborhoods. So there are places that we could put the wet housing that isn't near a residential neighborhood and would still have the same effect.
Emmett, we're running out of time, so I want to get some more callers in, but thank you. We've got the idea. We appreciate it. Any comment on wet housing?
Yeah, thanks for calling Emmett. And Emmett actually shared some of the same feedback with us at the Northside Westside neighborhood meeting. So we've heard from Emmett before and appreciate his feedback. Actually, we refer to that as low barrier housing or permanent supportive housing for folks struggling with addiction, but having support on site and still the expectation that folks are safe, that they're not using drugs and they're not becoming unsafe in their housing. So it is something that is called for in the 10-year plan, and it is something that can be done well and safely through good design.
Okay. Rich is next. Rich, thank you for holding, sir. You're up.
Yes. Looking at this whole housing situation, when you look in the real estate book, every piece of bare property you see has all these restrictions on it, no mobile homes and that. it used to be that was a person's stepping stone into a home. They could buy a piece of property, put a trailer on it, and in time, if that's what they so desired, they were able to build a home on that piece of property. And that is just almost absolutely non-existent anymore because everybody, heaven forbid, has a trailer house next door.
All right. Thanks for the call.
That's my comment.
Your comment on that. I grew up in a mobile home, so hey.
Yeah, mobile homes are a necessary part of our housing continuum. As Rich noted, it's some of the last options for affordable home ownership for folks in our community, and it's an important part of our rental community as well. Our housing policy actually will focus specifically on mobile home park preservation. How do we preserve the parks that we have in Missoula as land prices increase? And it becomes profitable for a lot of these mobile home park owners to sell these and redevelop them. And so we are focusing on that as an important aspect of housing and figuring out how we can support people in purchasing and placing mobile homes as well.
Well, I will tell you, we have like a minute and a half left in the show. This is just raced on by. So in the last minute and a half, if you would kind of summarize the things that you've been doing and how folks can get involved and how they can help you.
I would love to. And going back to some of the calls, Mike being the first one, we know, especially as it applies to homelessness, we know we cannot solve this problem alone. We need fresh ideas. We need full community involvement to truly move the needle and to house folks in our community. And so we really encourage involvement. Folks can contact us through the city website. Folks can reach out to their local faith community, their local service providers, and figure out how they can opt into the solution as it applies to homelessness. And then really looking more broadly at our housing policy, we are focusing on housing affordability, but housing supply and attainability for our entire community. We need to make sure that people who are living in fixed restricted incomes have access to safe and secure housing. But we also need to make sure that our teachers, our firefighters, our city and county employees can purchase homes and can be a part of that.
We're out of time. Give us a phone number to reach you.
So you can reach our office at 552-6395.
Good deal. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah.
All right. Taylor Powell's going to be with us Monday, and then we have another guest as well. So our fabulous producer, Nick Christensen, has got us all full up. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.